And now we mentioned, as we said, as we began with, the importance of the environment and animal rights in Al-Islam, and it has a central place in the verses in the Book of Allah and also in the authentic prophetic traditions of our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Allah says in the Quran in Al-Baqarah, as we mentioned earlier, in the chapter of the cow, entitled after the cow, on earth will be a dwelling place for you and an enjoyment for a time. So here, the creator of the heavens and the earth, Allah is saying that the earth is a dwelling place for the human being and an enjoyment, a place where you take your enjoyment from, as we said, from the different foods that we eat, and from the different drinks that we drink, the fruits and the vegetables, and all of these things that we benefit from the earth. Allah has placed us in this earth and has made it a place of benefit for us, and therefore it is not permissible for us to destroy it. Even as the scholars have mentioned, even in actual battles that take place, there are rules that are set in place for these battles, and from them is the impermissibility of chopping down crops and burning down trees and burning down crops and destroying property. So Islam has tried to bring a benefit not only for mankind but for the earth that mankind lives upon, and from that is taking care of the earth that we live upon and not being destructive in the earth. Allah says in the Quran regarding this, He who has spread out the earth for you and threaded roads for you therein, and has sent down water from the sky. With it we have brought forth diverse kinds of vegetation. Eat and pasture your cattle. Verily in this are signs for men endued with understanding. So again, Allah has said what? That He has spread out the earth for you, for the human being. So therefore this earth that is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us, it is a must for us to respect it and to honor it and to not be destructive therein. And Allah sent down pure water, He says, from the sky. So therefore, the water that Allah describes is water that is pure. So if we are destructive to that water will no longer be pure, and therefore it will be in opposition or contradiction to the verses that are mentioned in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore it is incumbent upon us to be careful the way we treat water, and to the point where even the Prophet forbade urinating in stable water, in stagnant water, water that doesn't move, for example. All of this goes to not being destructive to the creation around us. And then we mentioned from Surah Al-Rahman, another surah in the Quran, another chapter in the Quran, He has let loose the two seas, the salt water and the fresh water, meeting together. Between them a barrier which none of them can transgress. In another verse, Allah says, and when He turns away from you, meaning Muhammad the Prophet, His effort in the land is to make mischief therein and to destroy the crop and cattle, and Allah likes not those who make mischief. Now this verse is important. This is in Al-Baqarah. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah again, the surah of the cow. Now if you look at the description and the characteristics that Allah has mentioned from those who turn away from the Prophet's message, again Allah is addressing Prophet Muhammad here, and He's talking about those who have turned away from the message of Islam, those who have turned away from the message of the Prophet. And He says, and when he turns away from you, Muhammad, his effort in the earth is to make mischief therein and to destroy crops and cattle. So Islamically, those who are in opposition to the Prophet are those who strive to destroy the earth. And therefore the opposite would be true, that those who follow the Prophet and follow Islam, then they will be those who strive to preserve the cattle and to preserve the crops of the earth. So here is a clear verse in the Quran, in the book of Allah, a clear verse that shows us that the true mischief makers, the true people of evil and transgression, are those who turn away from the Prophet, and from their turning away from the Prophet is to strive to cause destruction in the earth from its crops and its cattle. In the next verse, or the next chapter we want to bring from the Quran, is a statement from Allah where Allah says, it is Allah that splits the seed and the date stone, brings the living from the dead and the dead from the living. That is Allah. How are you turned away? So again, we see the benefit that we have in the fruits of the earth, from the splitting of the seeds and from the planting of those seeds and bringing forth more fruit. How is it that we would turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given us all of this in the earth? And then we mentioned the authentic tradition now. After mentioning some verses from the Quran, I want to mention some authentic prophetic traditions of our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, where he said, the world is beautiful, and verily Allah, who was exalted, has made you His stewards in the earth. He sees how you conduct yourselves. And this narration is authenticated by the great scholar of Hadith, Imam Muslim. Again, the Prophet ﷺ has described the earth as a beautiful place. A place of vegetation, a place of fruit, a place of oceans and waters and rivers and falls. And all of these things that we see in the earth. Even the beauty of the desert. Whoever has taken the time to visit the desert area, there's beauty even in the desert, and the mountains, and even the likes of cacti and those things that we find in the desert. There's a beauty in those things, even in the animals that live in the desert, and a wonderment, from whether it be the scorpion or the hawk, all those types of animals that live in those desert areas. He says the world is a beautiful place, and verily Allah exalted has made you His stewards. In other words, Allah has made us to be over these affairs in the earth. And Allah sees how you handle yourselves or conduct yourselves in the earth. So therefore we see in this hadith, this prophetic tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the importance of how we are to be in this earth, how we are to treat this earth. Allah is watching us. He has made us responsible for this earth. Not only is there the great right that Allah has given us in being over the animals of the earth and over the plant life and the animals of the ocean and the likes of this, there's a great right that we have been given over them. But with that great power comes great responsibility, as it is said. And here we clearly see that Allah is watching how you are in the earth and how you treat the earth and how you treat the animals and the vegetation and the waters of the earth. The Prophet ﷺ said Allah is watching you. So in Islam we see very clearly here that Islam is a religion that calls to the protection and preservation of the creation.